In the forgotten village of Black Hollow, nestled deep within the Carpathian Mountains, time had long stopped. The few surviving residents spoke in hushed whispers, as if afraid the trees might be listening. The thick canopy of evergreens rarely allowed the sun to touch the ground, and a perpetual mist clung to the earth like a haunting memory. Lena, a young ethnographer from Prague, arrived at Black Hollow with a tattered leather notebook and an obsession with folklore. She had heard the legends, about shadow things, twisted faces in mirrors, voices in the trees. To Lena, it was all superstition. A dying village clinging to myths in order to make sense of isolation. The old inn where she stayed was run by a withered man named Ivan, who never smiled, never blinked enough, and always muttered to himself. On her first night, as she unpacked her things, she noticed a strange symbol scratched into the wooden bedpost, 2 circles overlapping like eyes, and a third above them, shaped like a flame. Ivan brought her food without a word. When she asked about the symbol, his spoon froze halfway to his mouth. "You shouldn't have seen that," he whispered, his voice trembling. "They'll know now." She laughed nervously. "Who?" But Ivan only crossed himself and walked out, forgetting the tray. That night, Lena dreamt of a forest where the trees bent backward, as if bowing toward something unseen. In the dream, something whispered her name from inside the earth. When she woke up, the window was wide open, and the air smelled of soil and rot. The next day, she hiked into the forest, notebook in hand. The path was barely visible, and the trees loomed like ancient gods. After an hour of wandering, she found a small stone shrine, covered in moss. Upon its surface was the same eye flame symbol, but this time carved deeply into the stone, blackened as if burned. Beneath the shrine lay a small hollow in the ground, lined with bones, foxes, birds, and something that looked eerily human. Lena shivered. She took a photo, then turned to leave. And that's when she saw them. Shadows. Dozens of them, standing between the trees. They had no faces, just the faint shimmer of form, as though cut from the night itself. Silent, watching, she ran. Branches tore at her arms. She stumbled, gasping, but when she looked back, the forest was empty. She didn't mention it to Ivan. She didn't sleep that night. And the next morning, there was a message scratched into her mirror. "You see now." The message on the mirror didn't smudge when Lena tried to wipe it off. It was etched, clawed, into the glass. As if something with nails, not fingers, had written it from the inside. She stared at it for a long time, heartbeat thundering in her ears. This wasn't a prank. No one had been in her room. She had locked the door. She remembered that clearly, didn't she? She snapped a photo and scribbled in her notebook. Glass writing. Same phrase from dream. "You see now." No footprints. No evidence of forced entry. Possible hallucination? She tried to laugh, but the sound cracked in her throat. Downstairs, Ivan wasn't at the counter. The breakfast table was empty, cold. Lena walked behind the inn's desk, calling his name, and found the door to the cellar slightly ajar. Cold air drifted out like a whisper. She peered into the darkness and called again. No answer. She turned away. As she did, she could swear she heard a faint click behind her. When she looked back, the cellar door was closed. That day, Lena returned to the forest. Not out of bravery, but obsession. She needed answers. The shrine was still there. So were the bones. But something was different. A second shrine had appeared. 10 feet away. Smaller. Newer. Still damp, as if the stone had been freshly carved. And on top of it, her notebook. But Lena had it in her backpack. Heart racing, she opened her bag. Her notebook was gone. She touched the one on the shrine. It was hers. Her handwriting. Even her pressed flower tucked between page 12 and 13. How? From deep within the trees, she heard laughter. High-pitched, childlike, echoing. Lena backed away, then ran. Back at the inn, Ivan was waiting. Pale, sweating, eyes sunken. "They followed you, didn't they?" he rasped. "You heard them." "Ivan, what the hell is going on?" He didn't answer, just pointed to the mirror behind the bar. This one was cracked down the center. On it, in the same clawed lettering, "We remember you." "I didn't write that," Lena whispered. "They did," Ivan said. "They remember everyone, even the ones who never came back." She turned to him. "What are they?" Ivan finally looked at her. His eyes were hollow, gray. Like stone. They are what remains when a place is forgotten. What grows in silence. In grief. In shame. He stood and walked away, muttering, "And now they found a name." "Yours." That night, Lena dreamed again. But this time, she wasn't in the forest. She was in a wooden cabin, rotting, ancient. Something was scratching at the door from the outside. Then it spoke, in her own voice, "Let me in." When she woke, her fingernails were cracked and bloody. And her reflection in the mirror blinked half a second too late. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her every step. The forest no longer seemed just a collection of trees and shadows. It was alive, breathing, whispering. Every rustle of leaves sounded like murmurs, every snapping twig like a warning. She returned to the inn, exhausted and trembling. Ivan was nowhere to be found. Only the faint smell of damp wood and something metallic lingered in the air. On the reception desk lay an old, yellowed photograph of the inn, decades old. A group of people posed in front of it, smiling. Among them, Lena's face. But Lena had never seen that photo before. How could she? Her heart pounded as she flipped the photo over. Written on the back in spidery handwriting were the words, "You were never meant to leave." A cold chill ran down her spine. She decided to confront the forest once more. Armed with a flashlight and a small knife, Lena ventured back into the whispering woods under a sky heavy with clouds. The deeper she went, the louder the whispers grew, shaping into voices. They spoke in a language she didn't understand but felt deeply inside her bones. Suddenly, the ground beneath her gave way. She tumbled down into a dark hollow, a forgotten grave, filled with broken branches and old bones. The air was thick and heavy with sorrow. At the bottom, Lena saw a rusted metal box. Trembling, she opened it and found a journal, soaked and torn. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. It told the story of a family who once owned the inn. A story of betrayal, disappearance, and a curse that bound their souls to the land. The last entry chilled her to the core. The woods remember what we bury. The woods take what we hide. They hunger for the living, to replace the dead. Suddenly, the whispering stopped. Silence swallowed the hollow. Then came the footsteps. Slow, heavy, approaching. Lena pressed her back against the damp earth, clutching the journal. Eyes appeared in the darkness, glowing faintly. And then a voice, low, gravelly, echoing. "You should not have come back." Lena's breath caught in her throat. The glowing eyes drew closer, their eerie light slicing through the darkness of the hollow. She could make out the silhouette of something, or someone, emerging from the shadows. It was tall, gaunt, and unnervingly silent. Her hands shook as she clutched the journal tighter. The voice that had spoken before was the only sound besides her own rapid heartbeat. "Who? What are you?" she whispered, voice barely audible. The figure paused, the glow of its eyes dimming slightly as if considering her words. Then it moved forward, revealing a face pale as death, with hollow sockets where eyes should have been, yet somehow still glowing. "You carry our story," it said, voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "And now, you carry our curse." Lena wanted to scream, but no sound escaped. She scrambled backwards, bumping into the rough walls of the hollow. The figure followed slowly, inexorably. She noticed something behind it, other shapes, other eyes. Whispering grew louder again, filling the hollow like a storm. Faces formed in the shadows, twisted and anguished, bound by chains made of roots and sorrow. "We were the family," the pale figure continued. "Trapped by our own betrayal, condemned to watch, to wait." Memories surged through Lena's mind, visions of fire, screams, a knife glinting under a full moon. "You seek to leave, but the woods will not let you," it warned. Desperately, Lena looked around for a way out. The hollow's walls were slick with moss, rising high and steep. Her fingers found a small crack in the earth. With effort, she began to claw at it, hoping to widen the opening. The figures closed in, their whispers turning into screams. Then, as the last bit of earth gave way, Lena plunged through, landing hard in cold mud. She lay there, gasping, heart pounding, the voices fading above her. But the curse was not gone. Lena lay in the cold mud, the night air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. Her body ached, but relief flooded her as she realized she had escaped the hollow, at least for now. She struggled to her feet and brushed the dirt from her clothes. The woods around her were silent, but she knew that silence was fragile, like the pause before a storm. Her fingers still trembled as she clutched the old journal tightly. The cryptic words within seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and the eerie voice echoed in her mind. Suddenly, something glimmered in the moonlight not far from where she had fallen. She approached cautiously, heart hammering. It was an old, rusted locket, half buried in the dirt. Lena picked it up, the metal cold and heavy in her palm. Inside, a faded photograph of a family, a mother, father, and 2 children. Their eyes seemed to follow her. A chill ran down her spine. This had to be connected to the hollow and the spirits trapped inside. As she pocketed the locket, a soft whisper brushed her ear. "Find the truth, set us free." The voice was familiar, fragile yet insistent. Determined, Lena set off deeper into the woods, guided by the faint glow of the locket. But the forest seemed to shift around her. Trees twisted into unnatural shapes, and the ground beneath her feet felt unstable. She stumbled upon a weathered stone marker, engraved with names from the journal. A forgotten graveyard hidden by time and sorrow. Lightning flashed, revealing a figure standing just beyond the stones. A woman draped in shadow, her eyes hollow and sorrowful. "You must unravel the betrayal," the woman whispered. "Only then will the curse break." Lena's journey had only just begun. The rain started slowly at first, a gentle tapping on the leaves that quickly grew into a relentless pounding. Lena pulled her coat tighter, the locket pressed against her chest like a burning weight. The ghostly woman's words echoed in her mind. Unravel the betrayal. But what betrayal? And by whom? She crouched beside the graves, tracing the faded names with her trembling fingers. One name stood out, Evelyn Harper. It was the same name from the journal's last entry, the one where the handwriting abruptly stopped. Suddenly, the earth beneath her shifted. She stumbled back as a soft moaning rose from the ground. The graves began to glow with an unnatural light, and the air thickened with cold dread. A hand burst from the soil, followed by another, and soon, dozens of pale figures clawed their way free. Ghostly faces twisted in torment, reaching out as if begging for release. Lena's breath caught in her throat. These were the spirits trapped by the curse, and their agony was unbearable. But amidst the ghosts, a shadow moved differently, a figure in tattered clothes, eyes burning with rage. It was a lie, the figure hissed. A betrayal that damned us all. Lena felt a pull toward the ghost story. She needed to understand what had happened, why these souls were trapped. She opened the journal again, its pages now glowing faintly. Words rearranged themselves, revealing a hidden story of greed, jealousy, and a forbidden love that tore the family apart. As the storm raged on, Lena realized her only hope was to find the one who had started it all, and confront the darkness that still lurked in the hollow. Lena fled from the restless spirits, heart hammering in her chest. The path back to the village was slick with mud and shadowed by ancient oaks. She clutched the journal tightly, now bursting with hidden truths. She had to find the keeper. Legend spoke of an old man who guarded the hollow's darkest secrets, an outcast who lived at the edge of the forest, shunned by the villagers but known to possess knowledge of the past no one dared to confront. The sky was black as she reached his ramshackle cabin, smoke curling from the crooked chimney. Lena hesitated, then knocked on the door. It creaked open, revealing a gaunt man with piercing eyes that seemed to look right through her. "You seek answers," he said before she could speak. Lena nodded. "The spirits, the betrayal. I need to know what happened." The keeper motioned her inside. The cabin was cluttered with relics, old photographs, strange symbols, and a worn map of the hollow. He poured 2 cups of bitter tea and began his tale. Decades ago, the village thrived, but beneath the surface was a feud that grew darker by the year. A forbidden love between Evelyn Harper and a man from a rival family threatened to unite them, but the patriarchs had other plans. Betrayed and broken, Evelyn vanished into the woods, never to be seen alive again. The curse, the keeper said, was born from that sorrow and rage, a spell cast in desperation to bind the pain forever. Lena's fingers brushed over the map, stopping at a marked spot deep within the forest. "That's where you'll find her," the keeper whispered. "If you're brave enough to face what waits there." Lena left the keeper's cabin with a heavy weight in her chest. The night air was colder now, the forest darker and more menacing. The path to the marked spot on the map was faint, overgrown with thorny bushes and twisted roots. Each step deeper into the hollow felt like walking into a living nightmare. The trees seemed to whisper her name, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a small clearing bathed in an eerie silver light. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and faded symbols. The air was thick with the scent of earth and something else, something metallic and sharp. Lena's heart pounded. This was the place where Evelyn had disappeared, where the curse had been born. She opened the journal, flipping to the page with Evelyn's final words, desperate pleas for forgiveness and release. With trembling hands, Lena began to recite the incantation, hoping to break the curse that had haunted the village for generations. The ground trembled beneath her feet. A cold wind whipped through the clearing, swirling leaves and dust. From the shadows emerged a figure. A pale woman with eyes like dark voids, her expression a mixture of sorrow and fury. "Why do you disturb my rest?" Evelyn's ghostly voice echoed. Lena steadied herself. "To end the pain. To free you." The spirit's face softened, tears glistening like stars. "Then listen well, child. Only by embracing the truth can the curse be lifted. But beware. The darkness that binds me will not let go easily." The altar glowed, illuminating ancient runes that pulsed with otherworldly energy. Lena knew the final test awaited, a battle not just for Evelyn's soul but for the very future of the hollow itself. Lena's voice faltered as the altar's runes flared brighter. The ghostly figure of Evelyn began to wail, the sorrow turning to rage. The ground cracked open around the clearing, releasing a dark mist that spread like poison. From the shadows emerged grotesque shapes, twisted creatures born from the curse, their eyes glowing with malice. They circled Lena, claws scraping against bark and stone. Fear threatened to paralyze her, but she clenched her fists and recited the incantation again, louder this time, calling upon the power of the ancient words. The dark creatures hissed and lunged, but spectral chains burst from the altar, binding them one by one. The clearing shook as a deafening roar split the air. The curse was fighting back. Evelyn's spirit hovered, her form flickering between torment and peace. "You must finish it. Burn the altar's heart." Lena's eyes darted to the altar's base, where a pulsating, blackened crystal lay embedded in stone. Summoning all her courage, she grabbed a fallen branch and set it ablaze with a match. With a primal scream, she thrust the flaming stick toward the crystal. It cracked and shattered, sending shards of darkness into the sky. The creatures shrieked, dissolving into mist. The ground stilled. Evelyn's spirit smiled, a tear tracing her cheek. "Thank you." As the first light of dawn pierced through the trees, the hollow seemed to breathe again, freed from its ancient nightmare. The sun rose slowly over the hollow, its pale light washing away the shadows that had clung for centuries. Lena stood alone in the clearing, her body trembling from exhaustion but her spirit resolute. The cursed altar was reduced to ashes, the blackened crystal no more than fragments scattered in the dirt. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, carrying with it the faintest whisper of a grateful sigh. She looked around, half expecting the eerie silence to shatter with something sinister, but all was calm. The forest seemed to hold its breath in relief. Lena reached into her pocket and pulled out the old locket she had found months ago, the one that had led her here. It felt lighter now, as if the darkness inside it had lifted. Footsteps echoed softly behind her. She turned to see the village elder approaching, his face lined with years of worry now softened by hope. "You did it," he said quietly. "The curse is broken." Lena nodded, a bittersweet smile on her lips. Evelyn's spirit is finally free. Together, they walked back through the forest, the morning light guiding their path. The hollow was no longer a place of fear, but one of healing and remembrance. As she left the woods behind, Lena knew the story of the curse would live on. But so would the courage of those who dared to face the darkness. And somewhere deep within the forest, the wind carried a whisper, "Thank you."